Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful, empowered harmonizers. We are zooming in and focusing in on a great viewer question that we got in some weeks ago and that is, can you describe a little bit more of the quote unquote dance between someone who is manipulative and someone who is manipulated? In other words, can you describe a little bit more of the dynamics and the relationship patterns that you might see between someone who is a malignant narcissist and perhaps someone who is even as so far as a psychopath, someone without conscience, someone without morals, without right or wrong. And so they just sort of navigate the world, getting what they want, fooling and deceiving others, participating in high risk behaviors, oftentimes very promiscuous, and oftentimes very cold or numb to emotional states, and meaning that they don't really experience normal, trepidation, fear, anxiety, social anxiety, concern, worry, doubt. They don't experience these sort of human emotions that you might consider to cause you to pause, consider things, consider different options. They really are just after what they want, whether it's right or wrong. They have no problem doing whatever is wrong to get what it is that they want. They just don't feel a moral inhibition. So in their mind, in a psychopath mind, they're always doing what they want, and they're never doing anything wrong. And because of their structural differences in their brain and then the neurochemistry differences as well, they are really just sort of on a track that doesn't involve any sort of barriers. They just sort of break through, certain boundaries, certain rules, certain limits, certain standards. And oftentimes people then find them in a position, that they admire. The psychopath, because of these traits, seems superhuman. They're able to do what others aren't able to do. They're not worried. They're not concerned. They're not concerned if they do something wrong. It's no big deal to them. If they hurt somebody, no big deal. Exploit somebody, that's just the way life works. I mean, they are on a whole cold, just really dispassionate, unfeeling, cold and callous mindset. So you've got, the importance to understand is that when we look at the dynamic between these, someone who is psychopathic or narcissistic and others, it's important to understand that you might find that the psychopath is oftentimes admired. They are admired. They are looked up to. They are laughed at. They are applauded because apparently of their absence of stress in situations that would normally invoke anxiety or stress. So these people aren't worried. They don't feel the same feeling states of fear. It does not cross their path. It does not inhibit them. So we've got a moral, you've got a moral dance right here. And usually the moral dance, let's just start with someone who is psychopathic, will oftentimes, to create the dance, will indoctrinate or brainwash and gaslight the person whom they are interfacing with, meaning quote unquote dating, quote unquote in a business with, quote unquote married to, quote unquote father to, quote unquote mother to, quote unquote wife to, quote unquote the boss thereof. So these, it's important to understand that you're dealing with someone who has a specific type of sort of covert aggressiveness, meaning they often have a high predominance of testosterone, which makes them very aggressive, male or female, and they are lacking of empathy. So the neural structures in the brain, the neurochemistry, the chemicals that are secreted, the processes are different in someone who is psychopathic than the rest of the population. And so when they want something, they're going to do whatever it takes, even if it takes 3 years, 4 years, 10 years, they'll get, what they want. They're, considered intra-species predators and very parasitic in nature. And the degree to which they can lie, deceive, dupe, and befall others is oftentimes beyond what most people could do, tolerate, consider, so oftentimes it's very difficult to, grab the truth or the severity in the degree to which the relationship is at when you're talking with someone who is malignant, and psychopathic. And so there's this lack of morality. So they, in the dance, I would say they tend to sort of swing others into the side to think like them. That's part of their manipulation strategy, I think, is to, there's in the beginning, there's going to be a sob story of some sort. This and this happened before, this and this happened with my marriage, they cheated on me, this and this happened at my job, the company dissolved, this and this happened with my industry, this and this happened with my house. There's usually a sob story where the person is going, oh, and they feel sympathy, i.e. empathy. But they then, that's, I think it's kind of how they're first testing their supply. They're seeing how engaged and quote unquote how sorry that the person can feel for them. Do you see then how it subjugates them to the healing mode, to the empathy mode, to the giving mode, to the receptive mode in those people? So oftentimes this state is hit very quickly. This is known as the love bombing. And so people then oftentimes are fascinated either to the degree then at which they satisfy their needs, not like McDonald's, you got me my meal quickly, you guys satisfied my needs, or you got to the point right away, you satisfied my needs. We're not talking about that degree of delivery. We're talking about someone who is a master manipulator, and someone who, because they don't feel certain, they don't have a certain feel states or ethereal states, emotional states, and an etheric energy around them, which is like the rest of the population, they have to fit in. And so they develop this sort of honed in skill, which allows them to observe, suss out, and then size up other people whom they can seek for their target or supply. In other words, these people have an eye and a target on specific individuals, groups of individuals, departments, etc., where they want to sort of, appear as if. So there's a disingenuine approach. Disingenuine meaning a mask, a masquerade, a facade, a front, an appearing, a poker face, a smooth operator, someone who is just malleable, who like fits in the palm of your hand. You fit in the palm of your hand and you just met them. You're jumping for joy and you feel that the answer of your prayers has been met. Here's the angel that fell from earth, to you. And again, once again, it's different than like, oh, here's a doctor who helped me, or here's, the meal that made me feel good. This is different. This is different. This is somebody who has a deliberate and pre-calculated approach towards sort of building you up, but then taking you and dropping you down with the goal of really hurt, destruction, and ruin. And I don't use those, terms lightly. We're talking on the literal, not the figurative and the literal, basically. And so, those individuals, who are targeted find themselves basically, puppeted by these individuals. Not puppeted, meaning that they found a good match and then their behaviors are matching their goals and objectives, meaning that their behaviors there's an adjustment that the person makes while in the relationship, which is going to be different than adjustment that is made in ordinary, typical relationships. In other words, this person begins to perceive things differently. They begin to feel differently. They begin to get numb. They begin to get transfixed. They begin to get glued. They begin to become fascinated, enthralled, feeling that they have this utopia with this person, feeling that their jaws could drop, that they're just sort of been hit with an emotional stun gun. They feel that, here's this perfect fit, a person who's so sweet or so strong or so caring or all these different qualities. So there is this falling in love phase, the love bombing phase, or the perfect fit phase. You're perfect for me. No one has made me feel this way, just, which has all the feeling of a true relationship. But usually those relationships take a longer period of time to grow, fit into place, and then there's, this sort of coming together and mutual respect and then growing together. But the problem with, these individuals who are manipulative is that what you see is not what you get, and you're oftentimes misled. But the dynamic, I think, first and foremost to understand is that there becomes a change in your thought pattern. You no longer how you are is, enough. You have to sort of change, and you'll find yourself getting either broken down or distracted by this individual. In other words, they become an immediate priority. They become important. You think about them all the time. This is part of their deception, is so that you're always thinking about them and your eyes are always looking at them, darting to them, finding their car, finding their phone number, finding their whereabouts. It becomes just sort of more and more of a need, which is really mimics that of addiction. Addiction meaning that which is, created an altered state and which is impairing to your everyday reality, but you keep on that path anyway. Meaning that, even though it's distracting you from what is important to you, you might begin to lose track of your finances, lose track of your job, lose track of your sleep, lose track of who you are, lose track of what's important to you, lose track of your ordinary everyday routine. So for a lot of people, this might feel like a good change up, a good change of routine, a new element, keeping things fun, interesting. But the problem is then a change of thought pattern, which means you're beginning to think like them. Once again, it's like disclaimer. When you meet somebody new, you might learn a lot from them. They might learn a lot from you. They might appreciate you. You might appreciate them. But this in-depth just sort of letting go of the previous to adopt and become indoctrinated to this person is a whole different experience. You begin to think, differently. They have a certain thought pattern, and they will no doubt direct and control your perception, how you think about things, how you connect things, how you get aroused. It's usually for the degree of hyper arousal, which means getting you hyper stimulated. All of a sudden you're not sleeping as much, you're going out more, you're on the phone more, you're waiting in parking lots, you're waiting in grocery stores, you're hanging out in bars or restaurants, you're waiting for them, you're changing up your routine. You might be even, sacrificing some rules and your own values. So this becomes part of the beginning of the dance. But what's important is to understand, I think with the psychopath, if we're kind of going there first, is to understand that there is a degree of hyperarousal and a loss of self, a loss of identity. This is identity, just sort of, this is an identity corrosion. Your values do become corrupted. In other words, it's kind of like a battery, that is oozed out its battery acid. You can no longer sort of connect to yourself. Those connections are sort of rusted over. There is some sort of, difficulty of connection, and you feel more connected to this person than you do to yourself. This person feels like the savior, the, heaven sent, but it's important to understand that the hyper arousal, I think, gets you on this hyper-stimulated, meaning, because of a boundary violation, breaking of rules, breaking of normal thought patterns to a very large degree, where, they're always, all of a sudden, it's like a perfect fit. And so people don't realize that they're slowly and gradual sort of losing grip of that with which you is your own, your I am. And so if you enter into a relationship with a degree of low self-esteem or you're on shaky ground, then people will be more than willing to let go of their self-esteem, their I am, and their values for this person because they're already on a sort of shaky ground. And this then fills them up. And so the higher the high, the lower the fall, the lower the the higher the climb, the higher the hyper arousal, the degree to which the fall is going to feel even more severe and extreme and more terrorizing. So there's this difference between life with them and then your a real life. In other words, becomes, because it is not there and sustainable for the long run. Because there's going to be two people that are like you in this situation with them. There's going to be three people. There can be other children. There can be other businesses. There can be other employers. Who are part of this. And so it can be very difficult to regain your own thought process, your own I am, your own thinking clearly, especially if it means separating from the group. Not getting fooled, duped, and deceived like others, because you could hold a different position with them of either, partner, business partner, close, close confidant. So the experience, I feel, for each individual is going to be very different. But if you are one of their closest, i.e. you're living with them, you're dating them, you're married, you're that intimate, then you're going to see more than others. You're going to experience the degree of manipulation, and it's going to be disempowering, because I think you get sort of corrupted and corroded in the level of the identity I am and your values. So once again, it's the morality which I think people feel that is a change of their values. But furthermore, there is a sort of a feeling of a tribe or connection with this person, that you feel that you can, make a future group or identity with this person. So there's a feeling of very close cohesiveness, and yet it becomes sort of immoral in nature. It's taking you in a moral direction which does not really suit you, but you make sacrifices or adjustments to be with this person. You lose sleep, you lose eating, you lose priorities, you lose your focus on your job or your employment or other, the hyper arousal will do different things. And so it's important to realize that you become desensitized to yourself. So that's where the dissociation, that's where the cognitive dissonance, there's where sort of the gaslighting is very difficult, because you kind of become foreign to yourself. You become sort of an attacker of self, like as if it's kind of like an immune system disorder, where instead of the body protecting itself, the body begins interpreting its own tissues as its enemy and begins hurting itself. I mean, that's what happens in like rheumatoid arthritis. That's what happens in multiple sclerosis and other immune system disorders. Lupus, where it's kind of like I feel it's kind of like an emotional or mental parallel to that, where, you've got healthy thought patterns going on, you've got healthy values, you've got healthy priorities, and maybe shaky on other areas, but yet here comes this person who sussed you out and who sized you up, who's a master manipulator, who is not like the rest of the population, who, wants you on their terms, who wants something. And oftentimes the end result is to not put you in a good position of empowerment, but to deceive you and betray you. And so to a certain degree, then your thought process and you become just sort of in the process, your own thought process, your own values, because they're not desirable by this person, you become trained, programmed, and conditioned to behave differently, but more so according to their needs and the relationship needs, that then you become in sort of denying of yourself. And it becomes like your values become foreign to you. They no longer feel part of your moral fabric, and they can be, even though they might have taken years to build. You might be a business owner. The business took years or decades. All of a sudden, let's sell it. All of a sudden, let's liquidate it. All of a sudden, let's get the Ferrari for this psychopath. All of a sudden, let's move here. Let's get this for the psychopath. And you begin displacing your funds, displacing your values. All of a sudden, you might feel like it's a life breakthrough, or things begin to change and your life is at a new level. But then you find out, that this ain't the real deal, that they are, they've got double and triple situations similar to yours that they're doing with other people. Other people of the same sex, different sex, it doesn't matter. And so you find yourself in a state of disbelief. And it's difficult to regain yourself because you've become like a inhospitable host to yourself. So who you are, what you stand for, your I am no longer feels like it's real or part of you or morally right. So your moral compass gets completely destroyed in the process. Moral, meaning like I need to take care of myself. Moral meaning this person is not good for me. Moral meaning like I'm in a situation that I need to get out of and quickly. Or the part that I think is difficult for a lot of people is that they find themselves emotionally addicted. The fiber of their life is now inextricably sewn in with this person. And the fabric of their being is they've sort of incorporated this person. And so their regular morals no longer seem a fit. They don't identify with them. And so it's kind of like the immune system disorder, but on an emotional level, where what is right, normal is treated like a foreign. And so your healthy thoughts are then broken down as if they're foreign. Do you see what I'm saying? If you've studied immune system disorders, you'll understand what I'm talking about. In immune system disorders, the body begins attacking itself as they look at the health, like in like rheumatoid arthritis, you've got like synovial fluid, which cushions your joints and that whole area, and which provides a cushion and flexibility and movement. But in certain immune system disorders, they begin attacking that joint area, that fluid or what have you, and breaking it down as if it's a foreign invader like a virus when it's your very own tissue. So your very own healthy tissue is it's not recognized. It's not seen for healthy. It's looked at as if it's unhealthy, as if it's a foreign invader. And your own tissue is not a foreign invader at all. It's what your body is made of. It's what the immune system is designed to protect. So it's like an immune system gone awry. It begins attacking itself. And so that's what I really feel that the dynamic begins like. That's just part of the dynamic that you see in a relationship with someone who is psychopathic or even malignant narcissist. There's this sort of loss of self and feeling of cohesion with this person that it somehow might get you in a better place. But they are deceptive. And so there becomes this sort of antagonism, your own self, but you become antagonistic to yourself. People begin hurting themselves, punching themselves, beating themselves up, hitting themselves, knocking their head into a door, punching themselves. They become their own antagonists. It's like everything becomes turned around. The system is going wazooey. You've got some people who are mutilators. This is something different. It might be pronounced, though, in a relationship with these people. Those people who are hurting themselves to elicit a certain feeling of aliveness or an endorphin rush to help ease the pain, or feel that they have some, degree of empowerment to the degree that they can change themselves, and so they might find themselves in a situation that they don't like. People who become, a specific way to fit the needs of the psychopath. You might have gained a lot of weight. You might have lost a lot of weight. You might have lost your gym membership. You might have begun drinking a lot, eating a lot, smoking a lot, doing things with them that were part of that saga. And now you're like, who am I to myself? So you do need to reinvent yourself. You do need to recover your sense of self. You do need to recover your North Star. You do need to embrace that. And you might need to take some time learning to find out who you are or recover your sense of self. So that part of your journey, as part of the dance, you might say, I need to step out of this dance. This dance is making me dizzy, sick. I don't like what I'm wearing to the dance. I don't like how I'm dancing. I don't like the dynamics. This is not right. I shouldn't have to be under this much pressure. So I'm becoming like a paranoid, insecure, this, they don't seem right. You begin to see the true colors as time goes on. And so part of that, I think, part of the dynamic is, depending on when this person and how long they've been in your life, this influence is experienced, is that to a certain degree, then you develop a negative or destructive mindset. This is and if you're still here on the video, then kudos to you for being able to sustain attention. It's a lot involved. But, there's a certain degree that a self-destructive mindset is then really can be solidified. Self-destructive mindset meaning, I keep behaving in ways that are destructive, that I don't like. Even despite my desire to change them, I keep doing something. And, you have then developed not just only a behavior, not only, an emotion, a feeling, but you've developed a belief system, a mindset, which is based on sort of a self-destructiveness, if you will, if you've gotten that far in the dance, or no matter where, it could have occurred very quickly. It all depends. Don't worry about it. But if you've developed a self-destructive mindset, meaning you are repeatedly sort of behaving in ways that devalue yourself, you're angry all the time, you're under a lot of pressure, you're behaving negatively, you're unhappy. You have to look at these states and say, to what degree do I want this to rule my life and be the roost of my life and be in my environment? You have to have the audacity to have that one breakthrough moment to say, no more. I'm no longer behaving like this on the phone. I'm no longer behaving like this on the email. I'm no longer behaving like this in the kitchen. I'm no longer behaving like this at the workplace. I'm no longer living under this tension and this anxiety. I am changing right here and right now. So whether you don't like the way that you're cooking, driving, brushing your teeth, walking, dressing, whatever it is, you need to be the one to change. I'm changing now, period, end of story, and you begin to get your focus and your true North Star, your moral compass back. So there's a degree to which you then, because of this degree of manipulation in the relationship, you become inhospitable to self. This is for a short period of time, but it can be very terrorizing. It's like people waking up to their life. How did I get here? Wasn't there a Talking Heads song back in the day, How Did I Get Here? I'm not sure the origin of that song, but that guy, at least he's at least happy, or something like that. David Byrne in the Talking Heads. But we're talking a little bit more about yourself. How did I get here? How did I, when you find yourself, how did I just liquidate my child's college fund? Why did I just sell my business? Why did I just move? Why did I just abandon my family? Why, so you have to realize that, there is a certain redirection, getting back to the drawing board that needs to be done. So especially at the level of the mindset, we talk here about self-limiting beliefs. So you can have some very sort of, I just want to use the word perverted or distorted, dysfunctional mindsets or connections. In other words, if I'm independent and strong, I could be upsetting or disappointing this person, so I won't be independent and strong because I must show that I'm under their control, ready to march when they say march, ready to go when they say go. It's like a tribe mentality where you feel that you can't leave the tribe and go off into the forest alone, because that wouldn't be smart, that wouldn't be wise. We can address that whole feeling and mindset, but I think for the nature of this video, you need to look at and understand the degree to which your mindset, if it's become antagonistic, unsupportive, you're feeling an absence of values or what you stand for. Begin to get a better handle and a better perception of this, and then what you're sending out to the world at large too, because oftentimes if you're with these people, you'll find yourself surrounded by a whole subset of feelings, emotions, and behaviors, and that you want to reevaluate and adjust where you are empowered, You are designating it. You are in control. You're championing yourself, and you're designing your I am according to the feelings that you want, the values and the outlook. And, because of the problematic of this being them being sort of mimickers of this. And so if you find that you've too much of this influence, then begin to get other influences in your life. Begin to feel okay and not guilty. I think guilt is one of the problems that's going to hold these negative mindsets into place. It's like a very super glue. If you feel guilty, every time you want to change, you're going to feel fear and trepidation. Oftentimes that's guilt, and that can be a real inhibitor factor. So begin to become sensitive to these states and see what's getting in the way of the positive and eliminate those for yourself. You can do this. You got it. Get into a better feel state, be state, I am state. Even if it's just existing, you are going in a better direction, the right direction as it's designed by you, not someone who's going to manipulate you for their ends only. This is your buddy, peace and harmony with you today, and I hope that these videos do help. Please share, please subscribe, and please donate for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support. Peace out. Have a beautiful day.